Welcome, fearless thinkers, to the space where we dare to confront the illusions that bind us. Today, we're not just thinking, we're preparing to dismantle one of the most pervasive, insidious, and life-stealing constructs of our modern age. The myth that your real life is something that starts later. If you've ever felt a gnawing sense that you're on a treadmill, endlessly working towards a future that never quite arrives, or that the vibrant, authentic version of you is trapped beneath layers of obligation and expectation, then you are in precisely the right place. Because today, we're not just going to talk about fear, we're going to stare down the collective fear that has convinced us to trade the present moment for a perpetually receding mirage. Prepare to question everything you've been taught about sacrifice, success, and the timing of your own existence. Let us name what most dare not: the slow, silent death hidden within the seductive myth of postponement. You were not born waiting, a creature of deferral, yet you navigate your existence as though life were merely a dress rehearsal for a grand premiere that somehow, perpetually, eludes its curtain call. You find yourself caught in the rhythm of waiting for Monday to dissolve into the relief of Friday, waiting for the endless cascade of responsibilities to somehow subside, waiting for the chaotic currents of the world to miraculously shift in your favor. You wait for your children to grow, hoping for a future where your time is your own again. You wait for your diligent labor to be truly noticed, for your efforts to be validated. You wait for rest to be permitted, as if it's a luxury item to be purchased only after an exorbitant price has been paid. You wait for the internal and external storms to quiet, for circumstances to align into some perfect, preordained pattern. You wait, you postpone, you defer, as though life itself will one day kneel before you, a humble supplicant, and declare with benevolent grace, now you may truly begin. But while you are engrossed in this vigil of waiting, the relentless river of time flows beneath your feet, swift and indifferent, carrying away the very essence you claim to be preserving for that mythical later, your life. Your one, irreplaceable, unrepeatable life. The core tragedy is not that you lack an abundance of time. Humanity has always contended with finite existence. The tragedy, profound and heartbreaking, is that you surrender this precious finite time unconsciously. Almost by default, you hand over your days, like coins into an unfeeling slot machine, to routines that hollow you out from the inside, rather than nourish your spirit. You dedicate your energy to jobs that may pay the bills, but do not reflect the deepest resonances of your soul, jobs that feel like ill-fitting garments you are forced to wear. You chain yourself to obligations that fracture your attention and spirit, rather than fulfilling your innate potential for joy and meaning. Beneath this pervasive pattern of postponement lies a deeply embedded, collective untruth, a cultural narrative woven into the very fabric of the modern psyche, the insidious belief that joy is a reward to be earned only through prolonged struggle and suffering. It's the idea that sacrifice, often of your own well-being and deepest desires, is the non-negotiable price of some future grander reward. It's the pervasive notion that meaning, true meaning, dwells not in the vibrant immediacy of the present moment, but in some distant shimmering horizon, always just out of reach. But what if that horizon is a mirage? What if it never truly comes? What if the road you are so arduously traveling, sacrificing your present for a future dream, ends not in glorious triumph, but in utter depletion, in a barren landscape of regret and exhaustion? This belief, Carl Jung would likely suggest, is a powerful cultural complex, a psychic inheritance passed down through generations like a burdensome heirloom. It's a narrative that glorifies relentless endurance, martyrdom, and self-neglect, all while quietly, systematically severing us from the profound, electrifying immediacy of being alive here and now. It whispers insidiously that true freedom, authentic joy, and deep rest are the exclusive domain of the elderly, of the retired, of those who have already traded the vibrant, unpredictable flame of their vitality for the cold, predictable security of routine and accumulated assets. And so, conditioned by this narrative, you defer your aliveness, your passions, your dreams, to a time when the body has inevitably grown weary, when the mirror no longer reflects youthful desire, but the undeniable etchings of decay, when dreams have been buried deep beneath layers of prescription pensions, and the quiet resignation of a life half-lived? Is this truly the bargain you consciously, willingly meant to make with your one precious existence? Was this the grand design for your soul's journey? There is something within you, an ancient, wise part of your being, that knows better. It does not scream in protest, for it has often been suppressed for too long. Instead, it aches, a deep, interior murmur, a persistent thrum beneath the surface of your daily activities, that gently but insistently says, "This is not it. This is not the fullness of what you are meant to be." You feel this subtle dissonance in the quiet spaces between conversations, in the profound silence that descends after the workday ends, in the almost imperceptible weight that sometimes lies behind your laughter, a laughter that doesn't quite reach your eye. It is the quiet despair of a life unlived, the haunting, persistent suspicion that you have unknowingly, unwittingly, traded presence for promises, substance for shadows. And if these words resonate deep within your core, know this with certainty: you are not alone. Millions, perhaps billions, walk through their lives in a state of somnambulism, sleepwalking through their days, obedient to a timeline they never consciously chose, a script they never paused to question. Carl Jung, in his profound explorations of the human psyche, reminds us with chilling clarity that anything which remains unconscious inevitably becomes our fate. And so long as you do not rigorously question the system, both the external societal system and your own internal conditioned system, that taught you to wait, to defer, to postpone, you will continue to abandon yourself, piece by piece, at the altar of a future that may, in reality, never come, or if it does, may find you too depleted to enjoy it. But the moment, the very instant, you begin to earnestly ask, when does my life, my real life, actually begin? You are already initiating the process of awakening. This awakening is not necessarily into immediate comfort or ease, for truth often carries a sharp edge. Rather, it is an awakening into a stark, illuminating truth, and that, fearless thinkers, is where real, authentic freedom starts, not at some distant end of a long, arduous road, but at the precise, courageous moment you stop waiting and begin, with intention and awareness, the profound act of truly living. Most people are bound within an invisible cyclical pattern, one that repeats itself through generations, with the tenacity of an inherited dream, whose origin no one quite remembers or questions. It is not life, in its vibrant, spontaneous sense, that they follow, but a pre-programmed pattern, a societal script forged not by personal, individual truth, but by collective expectation and the ingrained fear of deviation. They walk a pre-designed path, almost from birth, study diligently, not necessarily for the love of learning, but to earn approval and secure a place in the system. They work endlessly, often in roles that stifle their spirit, to prove their worth, to accumulate status symbols. They marry, sometimes not from a place of deep soul connection, but to fulfill the expected narrative, to check another box on the societal checklist. They acquire possessions, often beyond their needs, to display an outward veneer of success, mistaking material wealth for inner richness. They tie themselves to debt, as if these financial chains were somehow signs of stability and responsibility, rather than potential anchors, limiting their freedom. They keep silent when their inner truth screams to be spoken, all to maintain appearances, to avoid rocking the boat. They endure what detains them, what diminishes them, what slowly erodes their life force, mistaking endurance for strength. And if fortune, or what society deems fortune, permits, they retire, often with what little remains of their soul's vitality, their dreams, having long since faded or been declared impractical. And only then, perhaps, in the quiet autumn of their years, does the poignant, often painful question arise: was this truly living? Was this what my heart yearned for? Here lies the quiet, understated horror of our times. That which was meant to liberate, education, career, societal structures, has for many become the very mechanism of a subtle, insidious imprisonment. What we collectively call life often becomes a monotonous loop, a carousel adorned with the trappings of responsibility and logic, spinning endlessly, repetitively, while the rider, dazed and distracted, forgets they possess the inherent power to dismount, to choose a different ride, or even to walk their own path. Carl Jung would likely describe this widespread phenomenon as a kind of mass neurosis, a pervasive social hypnosis in which the individual unconsciously trades their rich, unique inner life for the perceived safety and comfort of collective conformity. This trade is often not made out of cowardice, but because they were never robustly taught, encouraged, or shown another way. The tragedy is not in the existence of the loop itself, for patterns and routines can offer structure. The tragedy lies in the pervasive, unexamined belief that there is no alternative, no escape hatch, no possibility of deviation. Our society, with its relentless emphasis on future gains and delayed gratification, effectively programs us to postpone life, to defer joy, for a future that remains a perpetually distant, shimmering ghost on the horizon. And yet, the psyche, that deep intuitive core of our being, cannot be fooled indefinitely. The soul knows with an unerring certainty when it is being bargained away, when its deepest truths are being subverted. The human mind, as Jung and evolutionary psychologists have noted, is a magnificent product of eons of evolution, exquisitely designed for survival, for navigating threats, for ensuring the continuation of the species. It is not, however, inherently designed for deep, soulful fulfillment or sustained joy in its modern context. It clings with tenacity to the known, the routine, the predictable. For in predictability lies a sense of safety. It instinctively avoids perceived danger, even when that danger is the unfamiliar territory of an unlived dream, the vulnerability of authentic expression, or the discomfort of breaking free from ingrained pattern. That is why the modern person so often feels a profound sense of restlessness, coexisting with a strange paralysis, surrounded by an unprecedented array of material comforts, yet feeling stripped of genuine vitality, of a palpable sense of aliveness. It is a sacred, deeply unsettling contradiction. You appear stable, successful, and put together on the outside, but inside, your spirit is quietly starving, yearning for something more, something real. In this pervasive condition, many individuals mistake numbness for safety, emotional anesthesia for peace. They confuse the endless repetition of familiar routines with a sense of meaning, hoping that if they just keep spinning the wheels, purpose will magically appear. The job becomes not a vocation, a calling, but a sedative, a way to numb the deeper questions and longings. The meticulously planned schedule becomes not a structure that supports freedom, but an armor that deflects intimacy with oneself and with life. Over time, the resilient psyche adapts, as it is designed to do. You stop noticing the dull, persistent ache that used to protest your choices. You stop asking the deeper, more challenging questions that once haunted your quieter moment. You resign, not out of profound clarity or conscious choice, but out of a pervasive, soul-deep weariness. Resignation, then, becomes your refuge, your comfort zone, and like all refuges, when inhabited for too long, it inevitably, insidiously, becomes a prison. Perhaps the most haunting realization in this journey of awakening is the dawning awareness that you have grown profoundly used to this state of psychic sleep. You may find that you no longer vividly remember what it means to feel deeply, to risk truly for something you believe in, to question radically the assumptions that govern your life. You have, perhaps without full consciousness, accepted a trade, a silent bargain, your irreplaceable time for a wage, your precious presence for productivity quotas, your unique authenticity for the fleeting approval of others, or the avoidance of disapproval. And somewhere along the thorny path of adulthood, you convinced yourself, or allowed society to convince you, that this is precisely what it means to be responsible, to be a mature, functioning adult. But beneath that carefully constructed edifice of justification, the unvarnished truth persists, stubbornly refusing to be silenced entirely. You have been systematically trained to value your time, your very life essence, less than your salary, less than your perceived obligations, less than the expectations of others. And when time, the very currency of life, is devalued, life itself becomes negotiable, a commodity to be managed rather than a mystery to be lived. Carl Jung believed, and articulated with profound insight that the arduous but essential path to wholeness, to individuation, begins when one awakens from the pervasive trance of social conditioning and courageously, resolutely turns inward. To do so is not an act of rebellion in the destructive sense, but an act of profound remembrance, the remembrance that you were not born to merely complete a pre-written program, to check off boxes on a societal scorecard, but to live a life, your life, in all its messy, beautiful, unpredictable glory. And that life, that true, authentic life, cannot be measured by external milestones alone, by promotions, possessions, or public accolades. It is measured, rather, by the depth, the presence, the consciousness with which you meet each unfolding moment. Until you critically, fearlessly question the loop that has defined your existence, the loop owns you. But the very moment you begin to question, to probe, to challenge, something ancient, powerful, and wise stirs within you, not to destroy what was, for all experiences hold lessons, but to rediscover what was lost, suppressed, or forgotten. The inalienable right, the sacred responsibility to define life on your own terms, from your own deepest truth. You were meticulously taught, often by well-meaning elders and societal institutions, that being responsible means surrendering your joy, or at least indefinitely postponing it. You were conditioned to believe that maturity is synonymous with a quiet, dignified resignation to a life less vibrant than the one your youthful heart envisioned. And perhaps the most dangerous, disempowering belief of all is the one you now carry silently deeply within you, like a hidden stone in your shoe, the pervasive, nagging feeling that it is somehow too late to change, too late to choose a different path, too late to reclaim your abandoned dreams. But that, fearless thinkers, is a lie. It is not a malicious lie, intentionally designed to cause harm, but a quiet, insidious, inherited one, a collective illusion passed down through generations like a family heirloom, accepted without scrutiny simply because it was never rigorously questioned. Yet, to truly vibrantly live, one must summon the courage to become a heretic of societal timing, a loving disruptor of collective consensus. One must shatter the deeply ingrained illusion that responsibility requires self-abandonment, that duty necessitates the sacrifice of one's soul. For what good, ultimately, is fulfilling every external expectation, meeting every societal benchmark, if it costs you the very essence of who you are, if it leaves you a stranger to your own deepest self? To awaken, then, is to commit a sacred rebellion, a revolution of the soul. It is to consciously, deliberately walk away from the tyranny of the clock wombed by others, by societal pressures, by outdated beliefs, and begin instead to listen intently to the quieter, more subtle, more authentic rhythm that has always pulsed deep inside you, patiently waiting to be heard. That inner rhythm is not measured in deadlines met, promotions achieved, or savings accounts amassed. It beats with the cadence of your deepest longings, your unshakable inner truths, your unspoken, cherished. But of course, honoring this inner rhythm was never explicitly part of the societal script you were handed. They told you that adulthood was primarily a sacrifice, a long series of compromises. They implied that growing up meant enduring the unbearable with a stoic, uncomplaining smile. They taught you that the system primarily rewards the obedient, the compliant, the one who colors within the lines. They subtly, or not so subtly, communicated that to be a good person, a responsible citizen, is to silence your innate wildness, to obey without protest, and to conveniently forget the vast, untamed landscape of your own desires and potential. And so here you are, perhaps praised by society for your conformity, your reliability, your apparent success, yet feeling profoundly, inexplicably estranged from yourself, from the vibrant core of your being. You have perhaps become a well-oiled machine, efficient and productive, but not a fulfilled, deeply nourished soul. You meet every external standard, every societal expectation, except, perhaps the most important one, your own. The question that now knocks persistently, urgently, on the door of your awareness is not one you were ever explicitly taught to ask, not one that features prominently in mainstream discourse, What if the retirement you meticulously plan and sacrifice for never actually comes in the way you imagine it? What if the time you are so diligently saving for, the freedom you are sacrificing virtually everything to one day taste, arrives too late? What if by then your body is irrevocably tired, your spirit irretrievably dulled, and the vibrant, energetic self you promised to return to, the one you put on hold, has vanished, faded like an old photograph exposed to too much light? We live in a culture that by and large treats life as if it were a perpetual rehearsal, a practice run for some grand future performance. We postpone laughter, deep rest, genuine intimacy, authentic self-expression, the exhilarating joy of taking meaningful risks, as though there will be a final, definitive performance where it all magically, effortlessly gets to happen. But the truth, the raw, undeniable truth, is far more immediate, far more urgent, far more demanding of our presence. There is no guaranteed second act, unless you courageously, consciously choose to begin it now, in this very moment. There is no perfect, divinely ordained moment waiting for you around some future corner. This right here, right now, this is not a prelude, not a warm-up. This is the only stage upon which your unique, precious life will ever unfold. This is the performance. Carl Jung, again, provides profound guidance here. He believed that the great, essential work of the individual, the opus of a lifetime, is not to blindly conform to the collective at the devastating cost of one's own soul, but to become conscious, to bravely, painstakingly remember and reclaim the authentic self that lies beneath the layers of societal roles, expectations, and conditioned personas. And that remembering, that sacred reclamation, often begins not in comfort, but in profound discomfort, in the subtle, persistent ache that whispers from deep within, "This is not my life. This is not who I truly am." That ache, that discomfort is not a sign of failure, not a symptom of being broken. It is an invitation, a sacred summons from your soul, an invitation to return to yourself, to reclaim your innate agency, to choose with profound awareness rather than comply out of ingrained fear or habitual inertia. No one, absolutely no one, will arrive on a white horse to grant you permission to live your life fully, authentically, joyfully. There is no official, designated moment when the stars will magically align and some external authority will declare, "Now it begins. Now you are free to live." That liberating moment only comes when you declare it, when you rise from the seductive trance of postponement and declare with unshakable conviction, "Now matters." This moment matters, because the future, however bright it may seem, is merely potential, a canvas yet untouched, and the past, however much it shapes us, is only the echo of who you once were. But the present, this very moment, pulsing with possibility, this is your point of, and it is from here, from this sacred now, that the true life, your true life, begins. Not when the system says you may, but when your soul, with unwavering clarity, says you. Life, in its relentless, beautiful unfolding, does not wait. It offers no dress rehearsal, no permission slip from an external authority, no guarantee of a return ticket if you miss your cue. It flows, inexorably, in a cascade of moments, and you, perhaps unknowingly, are letting far too many of them bleed into the silence of unlived potential. Do you truly comprehend how many lives have withered on the vine, not from sudden, unavoidable tragedy, but from the slow, creeping paralysis of hesitation, from the chronic disease of someday? How many inner artists, with vibrant visions and unique voices, have died in quiet, sterile apartments, their masterpieces never seeing the light of day? How many unwritten books, filled with wisdom and stories that could have changed lives, exist only as fleeting shadows in the collective psyche? How many soul-stirring melodies vanished into the ether because someone somewhere feared judgment, feared criticism, feared not being good enough? How many profound, liberating truths were buried beneath layers of polite, socially acceptable silence, sacrificed at the altar of conformity? How many passionate hearts refused to burn brightly, to love fiercely, to risk vulnerability, all for the sake of seeming rational, sensible, or in control, all because of one ghostly, pervasive idea that the right time, the perfect moment, is always somewhere out there, just beyond the horizon of today. But while you patiently, dutifully wait for that perfect, mythical alignment of stars and circumstances, the relentless clock of your own mortality does not wait with you. It turns, second by second, minute by minute, day by day. It thins your skin, literally and metaphorically. It subtly, gradually, numbs your inner fire, your zest for life. Every single moment left unclaimed, unlived, uncherished, is a breath of yourself that remains unexpressed, a facet of your potential that remains dormant. What you casually, dismissively call later is often the most seductive, most dangerous lie of all. It wears the convincing mask of logic, of prudence, of responsibility. But behind that mask, more often than not, is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of stepping outside the comfortable confines of the familiar. Behind it is avoidance, skillfully disguised as responsible adult. Behind it is the ancient, tragic betrayal of the authentic self in exchange for the fleeting, conditional approval of others, or the illusion of safety. You must, therefore, revolt. Not violently, not with external aggression, but soulfully, from the very depths of your being. You must rebel against the inner machinery, the conditioned programming that runs on autopilot, dictating your choices without your conscious consent. You must rebel against a culture that often makes endless sacrifice a cardinal virtue, but seldom teaches you the profound, essential art of how to truly deeply live. You were not born to be a mere performance, an actor, endlessly playing a role assigned by others. You were not born to endlessly, exhaustingly play the part of the good one, the strong one, the selfless one, while your real, authentic self fades further and further into the shadows behind the curtain. That kind of unquestioning loyalty to externally imposed roles is not love, not duty. It is a profound, heartbreaking forgetting of who you truly are. And no, this sacred rebellion, this soulful revolt, does not necessarily require you to impulsively drop everything, abandon all responsibilities, and flee to a distant, exotic shore. That is often a romanticized fantasy, a temporary escape, not sustainable, authentic freedom. True freedom, the kind that transforms your life from the inside out, begins quietly, subtly, often imperceptibly, to the outside world. It begins when you start to reclaim your precious finite time from the iron grip of unconscious habit and societal expectation. It begins when you pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself with radical honesty and without an ounce of shame or self-judgment, what truly deeply nourishes me? What makes my spirit sing? What activities, people, and environments make me feel genuinely alive? And then, crucially, you must listen. Really listen for the quiet, often tentative answer that arises from within. It begins when you start to discern with growing clarity which parts of your current life still pulse with genuine meaning and vitality, and which parts have gone hollow, stale, and life-denying. Even if you cannot immediately leave your job or radically change your external circumstances overnight, you can begin, right now, to stop betraying your own inner voice, your own intuitive wisdom. You can choose, consciously and deliberately, not to numb your soul with mindless routine, excessive consumption, or endless distraction. You can begin again, in this very moment, by simply, tenderly noticing what still stirs your spirit, what ignites a spark of curiosity or joy, however small. Give yourself unconditional permission to return to the sacred, to joy, to your own undeniable aliveness. Allow yourself, without guilt or apology, to play, to rest deeply, to love fiercely and authentically, to express your unique creativity. These acts, in a society often addicted to relentless productivity, chronic busyness, and the glorification of burnout, are not indulgent, they are profoundly revolutionary. They are acts of defiance against a system that often seeks to commodify your very being. The most radical, transformative thing you can do in today's world is to live with unwavering presence, to courageously say no to what steals your light and depletes your energy, to sit with your child and be fully present without anxiously looking at the time, to sip your coffee slowly, savoring it, without a shred of shame for taking a moment of stillness, to say yes only to those things, people, and opportunities where your soul feels a clear, undeniable resonance. Reclaim the hours, the days, the weeks you once unthinkingly gave away to pleasing others, to seeking external validation, to meeting expectations that were never truly your own. Reclaim the years you may have left in the trembling hands of fear, procrastination, and self-doubt. Reclaim the dreams, those vibrant visions of your potential that still patiently wait for you in the quiet darkness of your subconscious, ready to be brought into the light. Because the liberating truth is this: freedom does not magically begin with retirement, or when the kids leave home, or when you finally get that promotion. It begins the very moment you stop postponing your life. It begins when you realize, with a jolt of recognition, that the path they handed you, the script they expected you to follow, was never really, authentically yours. It begins when you understand that it is not madness to pause, to reflect, to recalibrate. It is not irresponsible to choose joy, to prioritize your well-being. It begins when you fully grasp that the only real, enduring tragedy is to wake up at the end of your days and realize, with a pang of unbearable regret, that you never truly, deeply, authentically lived. And yes, be prepared. When you begin this journey of reclamation, they, the guardians of the status quo, those still caught in the trance of postponement, will likely call you reckless. They might say you are being selfish, irresponsible, or unrealistic. But understand this: that is often only their own unacknowledged fear speaking. That is the voice of their own unlived life, their own suppressed dreams, projecting itself onto your courageous awakening. Do not allow their noise, the cacophony of their unchosen paths and unhealed wounds, to drown out the still small voice within you. Listen, instead, with unwavering attention, to the gentle whisper inside you, the one that remembers who you truly were before the world assigned you roles and identities. That voice is not reckless, it is sacred. It is your authentic North Star, and it is time, fearless thinkers, to follow it home. You are not born to disappear, to dissolve, inside a role, however prestigious or socially approved it may be. You were born to live, to express, to experience. As a unique and multifaceted soul, you have the sacred, inalienable right to walk a life path that feels deeply, authentically like your own, not one stitched together from the tattered threads of fear, obligation, societal pressure, or mere survival instinct. You are not here on this earth to wait your way into worthiness, to endlessly defer your joy until you've somehow earned it. You are not here to get it all right, according to someone else's arbitrary standard. You are here to live, to learn, to grow, and yes, even to fail in ways that awaken you, that teach you, that deepen your compassion and wisdom, not in ways that suffocate who you truly are, that diminish your spirit. No one, at the end of your days, will remember how perfectly, how obediently, you played your assigned part, if it was a part that betrayed your soul. No one builds a monument to the one who systematically, meticulously, erased themselves for the sake of being accepted, for fitting in, for avoiding disapproval. What remains, what truly endures in the collective memory of your life, are the moments when you were fully, vibrantly alive, not when you merely obeyed or conformed, but when you remembered yourself, when you honored your deepest truth, when you dared to be authentically. And if you must fall, if you must stumble, let it be in bold, passionate pursuit of something honest, something true to your core, not in meek, soul-crushing service of a mask that was never yours to wear. Look around you, with eyes wide open, and you will see it everywhere, in myriad forms. People walking with heavy limbs, and blank, unfocused eyes, breathing but not truly living, producing but no longer genuinely creating, nodding politely in agreement while something vital, something precious within them, quietly, slowly dies. They are not, for the most part, broken. They are buried beneath crushing layers of should, must, oughts to, and the perpetual not yet. But you, if you are here, if these words are resonating with you, it means something profound inside you has already begun to stir, a quiet, nascent rebellion, perhaps a persistent, undeniable feeling that this life, as it has been handed to you, as you have been living it, does not quite fit, like a garment tailored for someone else. That subtle, or perhaps not so subtle sense of friction, of dissonance, is not madness. It is your soul, your authentic self, pressing urgently against the constricting shell of a false, limiting identity. It is your deeper nature, your innate wisdom, whispering, sometimes shouting, there is more. There is so much more to you, to life, than this. Do not ignore it. Do not dismiss it. That persistent ache in your chest, that unshakable numbness that sometimes pervades your routines, that recurring question that will not leave you alone in the quiet hours of the night. These are not mere annoyances to be silenced, medicated, or distracted away. They are sacred invitations. That pervasive anxiety you carry like a heavy cloak, that bone-deep fatigue you cannot quite explain, that subtle but persistent sense of emptiness in a life that, on paper, looks complete, even enviable. These are not flaws in your system, not signs of your inadequacy. They are the soul's alarms ringing insistently, urgently. And like all meaningful alarms, they do not stop their insistent clamor until they are truly, honestly, courageously answered. Carl Jung, with his unparalleled understanding of the psyche's depth, taught that what we consciously refuse to face, what we deny, suppress, or ignore in our conscious mind, does not simply disappear into thin air. Instead, it descends into the vast, powerful realm of the unconscious and begins to shape our lives, our choices, our realities, from the shadows. This is the hidden, often devastating cost of chronic self-abandonment, of consistently betraying our inner truth. You do not only lose precious, irretrievable time when you live inauthentically, you lose vital, life-giving touch with yourself. You become perhaps the good worker, the responsible parent, the loyal partner, the stable citizen. These roles in themselves are not inherently negative, but beneath these socially sanctioned roles, the fundamental existential question still lingers, often unacknowledged. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when the performance ends, when the masks come off, and the body, that wise and faithful servant, always keeps the score? The immense cumulative weight of pretending, of suppressing your true self, often manifests as physical illness, as chronic pain, as unexplained ailments. The silenced, unexpressed self can curdle into depression, a pervasive sense of hopelessness and meaninglessness. The disowned, denied truth can morph into chronic anxiety, a free-floating sense of dread and unease. And so often we diligently, frantically soothe the symptoms with medication, with consumption, with endless distractions, without ever daring to question, to investigate the underlying source, the root cause of our malaise. We medicate our despair. We scroll endlessly through our numbness. We chase fleeting entertainment and superficial pleasures so that we do not have to hear the quiet, persistent voice within that asks, with unnerving clarity, is this all? Is this truly all there is to my one precious life? But here, fearless thinkers, lies the great transformative paradox. That very discomfort you feel, that anxiety, that restlessness, that sense of dissatisfaction, it is not your enemy. It is, in fact, the doorway. It is the beginning. It is the sacred crack in the armor of your conditioned self, the fissure through which the illuminating, liberating light of truth finally begins to seep in. It is the soul's profound refusal to play the assigned part one more day. It is the summoning of courage to let the old, tired script burn and to sit patiently, courageously, in the ashes long enough for something new, something real, something authentically you, to rise. You must stop labeling it chaos when it is, in reality, the emergence of a deeper truth. You must stop waiting for external permission when your soul is already desperately begging for freedom, for expression, for authenticity. Because the most dangerous, most insidious prison is not one with iron bars and stone walls. It is the one we meticulously, unconsciously build with our own silence, our own complicity, and the key to unlocking that self-imposed prison has always been, and will always be, in your hand. The pressing question is not if you will ever find the courage to use it. The question is when. This is not a call to impulsively, recklessly burn your entire life to the ground. It is not a romantic, unrealistic fantasy of escaping all responsibilities and living a life devoid of challenges. It is rather a profound, heartfelt invitation to awaken from the subtle, pervasive trance you likely did not even know you were in. The vibrant, authentic life you are seeking, the one that resonates with your deepest core, does not typically require wholesale destruction. It asks gently but firmly for your attention. It asks for a sacred pause, a deep conscious breath, a moment of unflinching, honest reckoning with yourself. You do not necessarily need to flee to the metaphorical desert or disappear into some distant, untouched wilderness to find yourself. You need only summon the courage to descend into the rich, often unexplored wilderness of your own inner being and ask the question that the world, with its relentless noise and distractions, has taught you never to ask, or to fear asking. Who would I be if I stopped living primarily to please others, to prove my worth, to perform for approval, to meet external expectations? This, fearless thinkers, is not selfishness in the pejorative sense. It is soul integrity. It is the highest form of responsibility to your own unique potential, to your own inner truth. Because the unshakable truth is, no one else can walk your unique path for you. No one else can choose your peace, define your passions, or set your sacred boundaries if you do not consciously, actively reclaim your time, your energy, your truth. Be assured that someone or something else will gladly spend it for you, often in ways that do not serve your highest good. Jung, in his wisdom, reminded us that the greatest tragedy, the ultimate sin against the self, is not necessarily to commit overt wrongs, but to live inauthentically, to chronically betray the true self in favor of the socially conditioned mask, the expected role, the path of blind obedience. But once you truly see the performance for what it is, a carefully constructed act, often born of fear and conditioning, you cannot unsee it. The veil is lifted, and once you truly deeply feel the profound ache of an unlived life in your chest, you cannot numb it forever with superficial fixes. You have the inherent, inalienable right to begin again, to redraw the map of your life mid-journey, to declare with quiet conviction, this no longer reflects who I am becoming. And you do not owe anyone, not even yourself, a lengthy, dramatic justification for this shift. Your inner truth, clearly felt and honestly acknowledged, is enough. It is more than enough. The world, with its complex systems and ingrained narratives, conditioned you to be loyal to duty above all else, to keep the societal machine running smoothly, to hold existing structures in place, even as they may have been slowly, insidiously hollowing you out from within. That is why it often hurts so deeply, why there is such profound grief when you finally realize that you may have built a significant portion of your life on expectations, beliefs, and values that were never truly authentically your own. But now, if you are hearing this message, you know, or at least you are beginning to know. And from that knowing, from that dawning awareness, there is ultimately no comfortable return to blissful ignorance. The life you were given, this one precious, unrepeatable gift, is not a draft, not a practice run. There is no rehearsal period, no cosmic reset button. This is it. This is your show. Every single moment you defer joy, postpone passion, or delay living authentically for some imagined later becomes a ghost, a specter of unlived potential that subtly, persistently haunts your present. So if you're going to spend what remains of your precious finite energy, let it be on something that truly breathes your name, something that makes your soul feel alive and expansive. If you're going to give your invaluable time, let it be to activities, people, and pursuits that genuinely nourish you, that replenish your spirit rather than deplete it. If you are going to make sacrifices, and life inevitably involves choices and trade-offs, let them be consciously chosen, aligning with the deepest truth of your soul, not just with the deafening noise of the crowd or the ingrained habits of your conditioning. Because here is the most sobering, most urgent truth of all: a life lived primarily or solely to meet external expectations, to gain approval, or to avoid disapproval, is, at best, a half-life. And half-lives, by their very nature, tend to rot slowly, quietly, insidiously from within. They do not usually collapse in a dramatic, fiery spectacle. They fade, almost imperceptibly, day by day, until one day you wake up and realize you have forgotten what it truly meant, what it truly felt like to be vibrantly, unmistakably alive. And the greatest danger, the most insidious trap, is not necessarily the eventual collapse. It is your remarkable, almost infinite human capacity to adapt to lifelessness, to normalize your own numbness, to begin to call soul-crushing exhaustion purpose, to reframe debilitating burnout as commitment, to wear your inner emptiness like a perverse badge of honor, and call it maturity or responsibility. But there is something sacred, something indomitable, something unkillable within you that has not died, that cannot be extinguished. There is a spark, however faint, that has been whispering to you for years, perhaps for decades. It is the voice of your authentic self, the voice that remembers who you were before the world told you who you had to be. Listen to it now. Listen to it with the entirety of your being. This is not about recklessly abandoning everything and everyone you hold dear. It is about finally, courageously, lovingly coming home to yourself. You do not owe the world a perfect life, an Instagram-worthy existence. You owe yourself, and only yourself, a life that is honest, a life that is true, a life that is authentically, uniquely yours. And no one, absolutely no one, is going to live it for you. So stop waiting. Stop waiting for the permission slip that will never arrive. Do not wait for retirement, for perfect clarity, for the kids to be grown, for the mortgage to be paid, for the right moment. That moment, that elusive right moment, is already here. It is now. The calendar will not set you free. External circumstances will not magically align to liberate you. Only you can do that. And freedom, true freedom, is not a distant destination to be reached after years of toil and sacrifice. It is a daily decision, a moment-by-moment choice to choose presence over performance, to choose alignment with your soul over mere societal achievement, to choose yourself, your truth, your aliveness, again and again and again. Let today, this very day, be the day you begin your return, not to what was expected of you, but to what was always unshakably true within you. Life has already begun. It began the moment you took your first breath. The only thing that has ever been missing, the only ingredient needed to transform your existence, is your full, conscious, courageous participation. Not later, not someday, not when everything is perfect. Now. Call to action. Fearless thoughts. If this message, this call to awaken from the great postponement, has stirred something deep within your fearless heart, don't let this moment pass. This isn't just a video. It's an invitation to a revolution of consciousness, your personal revolution. The journey of reclaiming your life, of dismantling fear and embracing authentic living, is ongoing. And here at Fearless Thoughts, we walk that path together. If you're ready to continue exploring these truths, to challenge societal norms, and to cultivate the courage to live a life aligned with your deepest self, then I urge you, hit that subscribe button right now. Become part of a community dedicated to fearless inquiry and profound personal transformation. Give this video a thumbs up if it resonated. It helps us reach more thinkers who are ready to awaken. Share your fearless thoughts in the comments below. What part of this message hit home for you? What's one small step you can take today to stop postponing your life? Your insights enrich us all. Share this video with someone you know who needs to hear this message. Someone who might be caught in the waiting game. Someone ready to reclaim their vitality. And critically, tap that notification bell. This way, you won't miss our upcoming explorations into shadow work, self-liberation, and building a life of fearless authenticity. You are not alone on this path. Your awakening is not an accident. Let's continue this journey together, one fearless thought, one conscious choice at a time. The power to change your life resides within you, right now. Let's unlock it. I'll see you in the next exploration.